This week on Scotty's Garage, we're going to talk about a car that a lot of you guys still remember, and that is the 13s for 1300 Falcon and how all that came about. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to remind you all that the Scotty's Garage store is open for business. We've got hoodies, we've got t-shirts, we've got stickers like these two just here. And I have solved the issue of international shipping. I know a few of you were disappointed that we didn't offer international shipping last week. Well, I've got in there, done all the sums and organised it all. It is all automated through the store now, so you can order with confidence if you're from outside Australia, and we will be able to get your packages out to you. So jump online and order your stuff today. Hey guys, and welcome back to Scotty's Garage for another one of what I'm going to start calling tailgate tales, or maybe I should just call them tailgates. You let me know what you think's the right name for it. But yeah, so this week we're going to talk about the 13s for 1300 Falcon, which was a car that a lot of you guys remember and a lot of you guys asked me about. And it was actually never supposed to be, you know, a project car, but you know, it all sort of ballooned into this thing that ended up being, you know, the first major project we filmed on Scotty's Garage. And, you know, like I said, it ended up with a massive following. So it all started off in about September 2010. I'm going to refer to some notes here during the story, but September 2010, Craig Parker, who was a magazine staffer at Street Machine at the time, rings me up and goes, "Scotty, I've got an EL Falcon here for you. Are you interested?" And I went, "Not really. I've got 2 EL Falcons already. Do I need another?" You know. And he's like, "Well, this one's $100." I'm like, "Okay. Sounds like a good parts car. What's wrong with it?" He said it runs and drives and it's still got like 2 weeks rego on it. So yeah, I'm like, okay, all right, well, I'll come get it. So I was in Holbrook at the time. Craig was in Sydney. It was his sister's car, and she'd taken it to a mechanic because they had some issues. And he said, "Oh, it's got a blown head gasket," you know, which is a fairly common fault with those cars. But you know, and it was going to cost thousands to fix. So she went, "Well, this car's not worth that." Because in New South Wales, you have to go through a pink slip system every year. So the car has to be inspected every year. And it had developed a rust hole in the boot area. So it was going to cost a lot to fix this car up. So, you know, she rang the wreckers and said, "What do you give me for it?" And they said $100. And so Craig, you know, being the car guy of the family, everyone refers everything to him, as they do with me. She rang him and said, what should I do? And he said, "Well, I know someone will give you $100 for it." And he rings me. So I jump on the XPT, drove over to the train station, up XPT up to Sydney, which took, you know, 5-6 hours or whatever. And I pick it up from his place that night. So it's dark, and you never buy a car on the tuck, but it's $100 and it's registered. So, and he was literally 5 minutes from my in-laws' place at the time. So I give him $100. Jump in the car, it starts, it drives, it doesn't overheat or anything, you know. I just drive it back to the in-laws, sleep there the night, and get up in the morning and walk outside to this very nice blue EL Falcon. It was a 98 model GLI Falcon, so sort of a base model Falcon. And I'm looking at this thing going, wow, $100, this thing's a bit of a bargain. It looked quite nice. It had some dodgy looking chrome hubcaps on it and that sort of thing, but it was a kind of nice car. And even my in-laws looked at me and went, "You know what, we'll, you know, double your money right now. We'll use it as a drive around car." And I'm like, yeah. I open the boot and I find out, yeah, there's a big rust hole near the back window. It's kind of like leaves had sat in the edge of the boot and it had just sort of rusted in that area. And so, you know, the car wasn't perfect. And I thought, oh, well, I'll just load up on water. You know, took a couple of big jugs of water with me, thinking it's going to, you know, be overheating and give me all sorts of dramas on the way home. And it did not give me an ounce of drama the whole way home. It was like 450 k's home and didn't give me a single problem. Just, it didn't get hot. It didn't do anything funny. It just drove like a really nice car. It had under 200,000 k's on the clock. And I just drove it home and I went, okay, wow, this thing's not too bad. And for shits and giggles at the time, I had one of those G-Tech quarter mile timer things, and I thought I'll do a G-Tech run on it because we lived out in the sticks. And it showed up as like a 16.2 on the G-Tech, and I'm like, okay, this car like our other EL Falcons were all kind of slugs, and this thing got up and went, and I'm like, okay, that's good. I don't mind that at all. So anyway, so I've got this car at home, and being an EL Falcon, and they got kind of a nice sort of aerodynamic shape to them. Not as good as, say, the AU Falcon in terms of aerodynamics, but pretty aerodynamic. And I'd seen some out at the Salt Lake, and I thought, you know what, I might make this into a Salt Lake car. And then I was looking into it, looking into all the rules, and Salt Lake racing, for, you know, it is a lot of fun. It is a sport with a lot of rules and pretty heavy duty rules, and for good reason. The rule book is written in blood. You know, a lot of people have died over the, you know, last 70, 80 years, even longer, doing land speed stuff. So, you know, it's a serious business. So you got to put a very serious roll cage in, you got to put fire system, all that stuff. So you can have $100 car, but it's very easy to put $20,000 into it just to make it Salt Lake racing worthy, before you even start talking about engines and gearboxes and diffs and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, I was kind of like, oh, well, maybe I'll just keep it as a parts car. But back then, internet forums were still fairly popular, and I used to get on this forum called Performance Forums. I'd sort of flick back and forth, you know, a couple of forums. So I'm on Performance Forums, and they're an interesting crew. But someone had come up with the idea of, could you buy and build, so it wasn't just build, it was buy and build a car that would run a 13-second quarter for $1,300. And I'm like, wow, what a great idea. I mean, I thought it was just an excellent concept. I thought, yeah, why wouldn't you try something like that? I mean, it's $1,300. Almost anyone can come up with $1,300 over the course of, you know, a couple months. And someone had sort of set a date. It's like, all right, let's get in, let's get started, and let's all build our cars by the end of April. And this was at the start of 2011. So we started on the car in February 2011. I think that's when we discovered the project and the whole thing. And a whole bunch of cars got started. I think only 6 of them actually got through to any sort of sense of completion. I don't know that all 6 of them actually made them to the quarter, but, you know, a lot of cars got started, not a lot got finished. You know, I think at the start there might have been 20 guys that were like they, you know, approached the idea of doing something, you know. So, but when it came to actually a hardcore group that actually got their cars done, I think there was like 6, 7 at the most got their cars actually to some sort of stage of running and, you know, in a raceable condition. And not all of them got to the 13s area. Some of them did go fast and really fast, you know, but yeah, anyway, again, getting off track. So we got this Falcon and we paid $100 for it. And, you know, of course, no one believed that I paid $100 for this car, but I had proof because I'd already started a thing in the Dry Lake Racers Association forum with all the things about talking about this car and what I'd paid for it. And this stuff all predated the 13s for $1,300 for quite a bit. So I could refer to that and go, look, that's what I paid for the car way back then. So it's legit. I paid $100 for this car. Am I allowed to come play? And they were like, yeah, sure, come on, have a crack. So I thought, all right, I've got a Falcon. I figure let's put an exhaust on it, put some gears in it, put nitrous in it, you know, take some weight out of it, see if we can get this thing into the 13s, you know. And over the course of 2 months, it was, and I had to talk to my wife about it, of course, you know. It's like at the time we were, you know, freelancers. Most of our jobs were for Street Machine, and it was very much a case of, you know, money's a bit tight at times. But I'd just come back from Sydney after doing a major job, which was the Summernats magazine. So we knew we were getting a bit of a payday from that. I said, can I take $1,300 out of that budget, use it on this car, and I guarantee you, we will make the money back on YouTube earnings. And my wife's like, sure, all right. But if it doesn't do it, you're never doing another one. I'm like, okay. So, yeah, I get permission to do it. And I know I've got, you know, 2.5 months to do this thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, well, so the idea was you know, and you can see this in the videos. So take weight out of it. So we stripped the entire car of anything in the interior except for the dash, left the dash and the heater in at that stage. I built a firewall in the back between the boot and the cabin because I knew I was going to run nitrous. Got some dry ice the floor, and these are all in the videos. You can watch all this happening. Cut the exhaust out of the car, and I took, what did we work out? 106 kilos out of the car, just in interior and stuff like that. And then we took more out when we did the exhaust and stuff. I think the exhaust weighed quite a bit as well. But, you know, I think we ended up taking maybe 150 kilos out of the car all up. And then, you know, like I said, I used the factory seat because there wasn't enough budget to run a race seat. Although they did someone come up with the idea later that some of the stuff came under safety aspects, so safety things like, so if you're replacing your seat with a race seat, that was a safety aspect, so it didn't really come into your main budget. So there's certain things that you could do to kind of fudge it a little bit, you know, so you could put a race seat in it, you could put a harness in it, fire extinguisher, and tyres were not part of the budget either. Like, so if you wanted to put some slicks on it or drag radials, not that drag radials were much of a thing back then, but certainly slicks or anything like that. No one was going to argue about the tyre side of things. So, yeah. So you could fudge it a little bit, but I stayed pretty true to the formula. And so I went and bought a nitrous kit off eBay. I think it cost me $480. I've got actually the whole list here. So I paid $480 for the nitrous kit. I bought some 3.9 gears for $170. The mini spool was $80. The headers were $230. I got them from an exhaust shop in Wodonga. I knew the guy, and they were kind of test fitted and never used, so I got them cheap. They were brand new, but they were cheap headers. I did buy an XR6 head to use on the project, but I never did fit it, so it never ended up in the final costing, and I paid $102 for that. Dry ice, $10. Expander foam to fill gaps, $20. Blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, the exhaust system was 23 kilos. So yeah, the nitrous kit was quite cheap at $480 back then. You cannot get them for $480 now. I think they're like, cheapest kit's about $850 now. So there's inflation for you. It's only been 12 years, I guess, but still, yeah, nitrous kit will cost you more than that right now. So the engine. Everyone's probably thinking, if you did a head gasket, what was the issue there? And I went into this thinking I might have to do a head gasket replacement, but it turns out it was the O-ring at the bottom of the thermostat housing had just been weeping, and I don't think I even replaced it. I think I put some stop leak in it and boom, solved it. No problems at all. So I never did do a head gasket in that car. And I did 40 passes, I think, on gas with that thing. So yeah, we lent on it pretty hard. 125 shot we put into that car. So yeah, it was a good fun thing. And we got, you know, like I did everything at home. Like I welded up the little shorty exhaust because, you know, I thought I was going to have to run this thing at Sydney. So I thought I'll need some sort of muffler. So I found a dodgy sort of straight through muffler from a parts pile, cost me nothing, and did a little shorty exhaust and just stick welded it all together, you know, and it turned out all right. Like, you know, it wasn't a work of art, but it turned out okay. So I did all this thing in the shed. And got this thing going and running right with the nitrous system all in the space of 2 months. But we're coming up on, I had to go back up to Sydney to fill in at the Street Machine office again. So I thought, well, if I've got to go up to Sydney, I should race this thing before I can go. But I couldn't swing it. The timings didn't work. And so I ended up in Sydney. And the whole time I'm thinking, I need to race this car. I want to race it. And I've got till the end of April to race it. And which was not true, I found out later. But anyway, I go to all this trouble to build this thing. And the deadline got extended a couple months. But anyway, I put all this effort in, built the car. I'm in Sydney. I'm like just thinking about it. I need to race it. And my mate Mick, who I'd been talking to about this car, he had a car trailer and he was very keen to take me out to the track. So I ended up organised. I was waiting for some money to come in. I'm in Sydney waiting for a payment to come in, because we got paid every sort of week or two sometimes. We didn't get paid every week. And I needed to get paid if I was going to go to race. So waiting for money to come in. Money came in, so I jumped in the car, drove home to Holbrook, and then me and Mick jumped in his car and towed the car down to Heathcote. So he had a HQ Statesman with a car trailer, and so we load the EL Falcon on and we just haul ass down the highway, down to Heathcote, and it was, the idea was just to go out there, kind of try and run the number if we could, then get home, because Mick had to go to it was his anniversary with his girlfriend and all that sort of stuff. So he was on a mission to get home for the next day, but we thought, let's just go and run this thing. I think it was a Friday night at Heathcote. So Friday night meeting. This is back when Russell Clark still owned the place. So we get out there and we start trying to make some passes. And at first I go out, do some NA stuff, and it wasn't doing anything, like it ran like a low 15 NA, and then we started throwing some gas at it, and it was running, again 15s, and sometimes dipped into the high 14s, and I think we eventually got a 14.6 out of it that night. And oh man, I was devastated. Like it ran like a busted ass. Every time I turned the nitrous on, it just ran like shit. And I worked out what it was. I worked out that because it was nitrous and the EL Falcons had a bit of a dizzy thing happening, I decided to retard the dizzy by a couple of degrees. Well, by ear. I don't think I had a timing light on it. But I retarded the dizzy a bit to see, just to pull some timing out of it so it wouldn't melt a piston. But yeah, I pulled too much out of it and it just ran terribly. So I was kind of disappointed. We were both really disappointed, and we loaded up the car and we're heading home, and it's like 11 o'clock at night. Wow, this is part of the story that never got told. So anyway, so 11 o'clock at night, we're coming out of Heathcote on the Puckapunyal side, and the way we used to go is always back through Puckapunyal, across the highway at Seymour, and then straight up the freeway, because it was quicker. It's the quickest way. You just come Holbrook, freeway down to Seymour, cross via Puckapunyal to Heathcote, boom. That was the easiest way to get to Heathcote. We'd done the trip many times. The reason I'm telling you that will come clear in a minute. So anyway, we get 2Ks out of Heathcote, and we hear this massive boom, and we're like looking at each other like, what the fuck was that? And so Mick pulls over. It is pitch black. It's the darkest, like there's no moon or anything like that. It was dark. And we get out, we have a look, and one of the wheels off the trailer's come off, and we're like, holy shit. And it's taking the wheel bearing and everything, like boom, hub, wheel bearing, boom, taking the whole lot. So all there is a stub axle hanging out, and it's pitch black, and we're like, well, we're not going to find the wheel tonight. And we don't know. I didn't know. We couldn't even see. It was that dark. We couldn't see that 500 metres up the road there was actually a truck parking bay we could have pulled up into. But we didn't know that at the time. So I said to Mick, all right, let's limp back into town. We'll get a hotel for the night. And we'll fix it in the morning. So we turn around, we limp back into town, and we're going through Heathcote really slowly, 3 wheels on the trailer. There is no scraping, no sparks, nothing like that. It's just, there's that much between the axle and the road, and it's not touching anything. So we go past these coppers sitting in the middle of town, and they look like they were hassling some teenagers, which, that's what country coppers do late at night. And within 60 seconds, yep, they were up our ass and pull us over, and straight away they were up us. They were into us straight away. There was no like, hi, how are you? What's going on? Why is there a wheel missing? It's like straight into us, abusing us, like full into Mick, and just Don't you know what you're doing is dangerous? You're endangering the public. I mean, we were the worst people in the world. I think at the time I wrote a whole bit blast about it on performance forums, and I think I said there was Adolf Hitler, Pol Pot, and then us in the terms of like, yeah, war criminals and stuff like that. We were like the worst people in the world according to these cops, and they were taking turns. Like it was like the constable would be like Uppus, and then the sergeant would be like, Constable, may I have a word? It's like, yes, Sergeant, you can, yeah, please have your word. And then the sergeant would be into us, and he'd be blah, 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 talking about how dangerous we were and all this sort of stuff, and what are we doing? And then, you know, they'd swap, just take turns, and referring to each other as their ranks every time. And you're just like, you guys are just dickheads. What are you doing? And then it finally got down to letting us speak. And it's like, all right, what are you trying to do here? I'm like, we're trying to get to that hotel just there. It's like 300 metres up the road. What are you trying to get there for? They're closed. I'm like, well, they've got a late bell, haven't they? Most hotels have a late bell. We can just stay there tonight and we're going to fix it. You know, oh, why were you going that way? You know, you said you're from Holbrook. You know, why are you going that way? And I said, it's the quickest way. Oh, I've been doing this bloody job for 20 years and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's much quicker going through that way and blah, blah. I'm like, oh, I think you're lying to me. I'm like, does it matter which way we're going? I'm like, we do this road all the time, and is the quickest way to go is the highway, past Pucker, down to here, boom. That is the quickest way. And he would not have it, wouldn't believe it. And why it mattered, I don't know at all. But yeah, they were the most asshole coppers I've ever had my displeasure to meet. And yeah, and basically they started getting very formal and like, all right, everything you say and do, blah, 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 may be recorded. You know, and then they start getting into Mick. And Mick's a very quiet guy. And they start going on, you know, like trying to lead him into saying things that's going to get him into shit. And I had enough at that stage. And I said, well, what are you trying to do? Like, he's not going to admit what he did was dangerous, because it wasn't dangerous. We're here, no one's dead. It's all good. You know, so they end up just throwing the book at him. You know, they say there's going to be a court appearance, all this sort of stuff. Trailer cannot move from this spot. All right, you cannot move it from this spot. All right. So, and they're like, yeah, we asked them also, what did you think we should do? Oh, you should have called the RACV. I'm like, what's their number? We're from New South Wales. We don't even know who the RACV is. You know, oh, you should ring directory assistance. I'm like, how many people are we supposed to ring? You know, like, we can sort this out by ourselves and we're not endangering anyone. But anyway, they wouldn't have that. So I ended up walking down to the local, the Serbo, which was like 100 metres away, get the number for RACV. A dude comes out, and because we find out the NRMA, which is the New South Wales version, had a deal with RACV, and Mick was a gold member. So they were very good to us. They organised accommodation in Bendigo. The dude's like, oh, just follow me back to the workshop. And we said, no, we can't. Cannot follow you anywhere. Cops have ordered us that this trailer cannot move from this spot until it's repaired. And he goes, okay, all right, I'll unload and I'll take the race car, I'll store it in my shop, and you guys can go to Bendigo, get some sleep, and you know, we can deal with it all in the morning. So, yeah, that was that night. So we end up in Bendigo. I think we got to Bendigo at like 2 a.m. in the morning by this stage. By the time it was all sorted, it was like 2 a.m. in the morning. Mick's girlfriend was very unhappy that he was not going to make it home in time. And so, yeah, the next morning we get up and we go and find a trailer place, and we find parts at this place in Eaglehawk, which is like a suburb of Bendigo, buy some trailer parts. We go down and we repair the hub, so new bearing, new hub, and it was all relatively cheap. I think it cost less than $100 for the parts to do the repair job. So that was all pretty cheap. And then we go, all right, well, let's go find the wheel. So me and Mick drive out, find where it had all happened, and find the wheel leaning against the tree, almost beside where we had pulled up that night. But, you know, like I said, pitch black, we could not have seen it. Would not have found it at dark. But here he is. We found the wheel. So we get back, go to the trailer, put the wheel on, hook the car up. I'm like, well, we're good to go. let's go get the car. So we go to the RACV guy, get the race car, load it up. Race car, 13s for 1300. We load it up, and at this stage it's like lunchtime, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I said to Mick, well, what do you want to do? Are you happy to go back out the track? Because they're racing again today. And Mick goes, yeah, I guess, you know, I'm already in the shit, so it's not going to get any worse. So why don't we just go out the track and do it all again? And we had some ideas of what we're going to do. So we tow back out the track, pay our $100. Mick had another bottle of nitrous, a bigger bottle. So the bottle that I'd used, the bottle pressure was only about 650 psi. It wasn't really high enough. He had a bigger bottle, and we put that in, and the pressures were about 850, which was much closer to the mark. You want about 900 psi, but yeah, 850 was good enough. I cranked the timing back up, maybe even gave it a little bit more, and we go out there, and I do an NA pass, and by this time, you know, we're getting close. Like, racing's been happening for a couple of hours, and they were going to do dial-ins and everything. I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's going to be one of them meetings. It's not really test and tune. So we go out there and we run a 14.9 NA. I'm like, holy shit, this thing, that's not too bad. 14.9 naturally aspirated, no gas. Okay, that's not too bad. All right. And by that time they start with the racing stuff, and I was like, I have to dial in. And I'm going, all right, well, I'll dial in. I put 14.9, or did I put 15.0? Something like that. But I'm racing against this 10-second Falcon, and I just launched on him and made it the other end. He never even caught me, never even got near me. And I ran it straight out the back door. I wasn't backing off for nobody, and I think I went, you know, like 14.9 on my dial-in, and I'm like, okay, that was pretty good. So anyway, I ended up going out the next round, I think. I broke out. But then they were going to do some runs towards the end of the afternoon. So I went, all right, well, let's wait around. And so they finished their racing. I said, Russell, can we make some passes? So we go out there, switch the nitrous on, and it goes pop, pop, bang off the line, and just hooks and goes. And we're like, okay, well, it's into it. Like, the little pop off the line, I was kind of like, what was that about? But anyway, gets into it, and then just hits this limiter hard about 1,200 foot. Like, oh, that was happening the previous night. That was something that happened the previous night. Yeah, it was hitting this hard limiter about, you know, between 1,100, 1,200 foot. And so we'll, like, holy shit, we worked out it was a speed limiter issue. They had a speed limiter of 180 k's an hour on those cars, because they used to shed the tail shaft after that. So, you know, we went, well, all right, I don't know how we're going to solve this issue. But anyway, here I am, I've launched, I've gone hard on the next day, thinking I'm going to hit this speed limiter, not knowing that I'd actually bumped the shifter from second to fourth, and it held third, you know, because I'd done a sort of electronic shift kit to the thing. It held third, and then it gets to that point, and I'm just thinking, it's going to hit that limiter any minute, and then it shifts into fourth. And then boom, I'm across the line. It's like it's gone fourth, across the line. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? And I come around, and I drive back, and Mick's standing there, and he's just like, and I'm like, really? And I'm like, okay. And the thing's gone, what did we say? I think it was 13.4. Let me just load it, let me have a look at this. I've got the numbers just here. Oh, pretty sure it was 13.4. So it went 13.41, and I'm like, holy crap. That's like deep 13s. Like, it didn't just break into 13.9, it went 13.4. And I'm like, holy crap, that is awesome. Oh, no one's going to believe it, because the mile per hour was way out of whack. The mile per hour was like 60 mile per hour or something. The timers had screwed up, you know. Typical Heathcote things at that time. But yeah, 13.4, we're like, holy shit. Yeah, no one's going to believe that. We need to do it again. So we go out there, we do it again and do 13.6. It had a slightly worse launch off the line. But it went back and it did a 13.6 on the next run. And we're like, boom, there we are. 13s for, and it was $1,149 at the time. So yeah, 13s for, well, less than $1,300. So we'd hit our goal, achieved our goal. That was awesome. So after that, I worked out that the popping and banging off the line was because I didn't have a purge system on the car. So it had, you know, the gas in the line would be not of a great quality, so you needed a purge to really purge out that shit gas, you know, that had formed between the bottle and the solenoid at that time. So later on I put a purge valve on it, and I solved some, put a speedo gear in it to fool it into thinking. So I took a gear set out of something that I think it was a 3.7 ratio, or maybe it was a 3.5 ratio speedo cog, because the car originally had 292s or 308s in it, and we'd put 309s in it. So it was getting to that, it was telling the car that we were doing 180 when we're only doing like 140 or something like that. So we changed the speedo cog, and that fooled it into thinking it was actually going about the speed that it was doing. And yeah, we ended up going back out there and running 13.2 with the car at 106 point something mile an hour, so like nearly 107 mile an hour. 13.2. I think we could have got a 12 out of that car if I'd kept pushing it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with that thing, and it did really well. And then some guy comes up to me and goes, man, I even raced it at Wilby a couple of times, you know. I just kept having fun with the thing, and it refused to die. And some guy said, I'll give you $1,300 for it. You know, obviously I'm not going to pay you for all your labour you put into it, but will you take $1,300 for it? I went, sure, why not? So not only did I build the thing for less than $1,300, not only did I run 13s with the thing and then run it a bunch of times and won trophies at Wilby and stuff like that, I get paid $1,300 for the car. And then the guy goes, last I heard it was sitting in a paddock up near Narandra or something like that. But it did really well, and it obviously put Scotty's Garage on the map, because, you know, we did an article in Street Machine on it. It was just a one-pager thing, but, you know, that got really well received. And then we did, you know, the YouTube videos, which were not very polished videos at the time. I was, you know, a bit rough and ready on the editing on those, and I wish I'd taken a little bit more time with them and done them a bit better, like more to these quality. But, you know, it was, you know, 2010, 2011, so it was a while ago. But yeah, we did it, you know, 13s for 1,300. And like I said, several others did it. There was a Commodore in Sydney where the guys put nitrous into it. They ended up putting, well, pretty much drilled the jets out to massively. I don't know, no one knows what shot of nitrous it was. They drilled the jets out, and it ran a 12, all right, for under $1,300. You could see the point on the track, the engine died, and it rolled across the line for a 12, and it melted a massive hole in the top of the piston. That's how much gas they put into that thing. And they cut heaps, or like they cut all the interiors of the doors out. Like, it had no regulators and stuff. It was just, they had taken all the weight, all the strengthening ribs from inside the boot, inside the bonnet. You know, they had taken all the weight out of this car, every bit of scrap metal out of it they could. You know, so the old Falcon was a little bit safer than that VN Commodore. And then there was a guy in WA who did a turbo setup on a VN and went 13s as well. And he eventually decided to go further with that car, and the car ended up going 9s. Like, when they put, you know, they put a couple dollars more into it, but, you know, they went 13s for under $1,300, but eventually I think they went 9s for certainly less than 10 grand. Like, it was somewhere between 5 and 10 grand, they went 9s. And that was impressive. That was really good. There was some other cars. There was a BMW that I think did 13s as well. And yeah, it was a really good thing. It was a good project, and certainly not something, I don't think you could do 13s for 1,300 these days. You might be able to get away with it if you found the right combo and got a car for nothing. you might be able to do it, but it would be really hard. Like, let's face it, everything is a lot more expensive now. So, although you could buy a cheap turbo, like, you can buy, Temu turbos or stuff like that. So you might get away with something like that. But yeah, it would be a lot harder to do today, I think, to do 13s for 1300. But maybe we could do 12s for 2K. Is that an idea? 12s for 2K. Maybe that's a new challenge we should do. You let me know. You tell me if you think that's something we should try. So 12s for 2K. $2,000 to make a car go 12s. I think we could do it. If we're making it buy and build a car for 2K, that makes it harder. And I think maybe that's where the challenge is. Try and find a car that we can make go, buy it and make it go 12s for under $2,000. That's quite a challenge. I think we could make a car, like if I bought an AU Falcon, I'm pretty confident I could make an AU Falcon go 12s for under $2,000 if we bought one. But if I could find one like dirt cheap, I reckon I could do it too. But it would have to be a cheap car. Yeah. But anyway, you let me know. You tell me if you think 12s for 2K is a reasonable thing and worthwhile doing. I guarantee you that you will think it is, because I know you guys. You seem to be very happy for me to dive into these things. So 12s for 2K, maybe let's make that a thing. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the story. I'm sure I've left some stuff out, but yeah, there was some stuff there I talked about that was not talked about before, but only on the forum and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a good project. I had a lot of fun. It helped put Scotty's Garage on the map, and yeah, I did enjoy it. The guy did offer to sell me the car, or maybe it was a guy that bought it off him. I think it changed hands, and another guy contacted me and said, "Oh, do you want to buy the car back for like $600 or something?" Not really, like I'd had my time with it, did my thing, enjoyed it, but didn't really want to revisit that, not at that time. So yeah, we had fun. We did a thing. We ran 13s for $1,300. I think the total cost of the car eventually was $1,249, and we put G60 McCreary's on the rear to run that. But yeah, it was a pretty good thing, I thought, and we had a lot of fun. So if you're not familiar with the project, the videos are all still online. It's down as a playlist. You can watch them all. Don't expect the quality of these videos, but yeah, they're still watchable, and you'll see a very young Scotty. Yeah, I was only 40 at the time, so a very young Scotty doing some very dodgy work, and yeah, making a car go 13s for $1,300. So anyway, we'll leave it there for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the tailgate tales, or tailgates, whatever you want to call it. You let me know. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like and subscribe, and come back next week for more Scotty's Garage action, where we'll either be working on the lockdown wagon or Dad's ute, or more story time here from the tailgate. Anyway, we'll catch you then.